Good evening, Niner fans, and happy Friday. We made it through another week, but a little bit of drama to end the week, depending on how you look at it. But we're going to talk all about that. As you know, today, Brandon Aiyuk unfollowed the 49ers on Instagram. Oh my God, we all today. A lot of people have posted about it. I know I posted on my social media pages. We're going to talk about that today. Are you guys concerned? Are you worried? Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments. We're going to get to it. Not a lot to talk about, but I wanted to address it now that I'm finally home and we can. We'll talk about Brandon Aiyuk. What does that mean? Oh my God, are they going to have issues? It's just drama, right? It's another dramatic offseason. Hasn't been a lot, but this is kind of the formula. The 49ers, especially receivers, they get this drama. And then all of a sudden we start questioning it. Then people start getting mad. And then, the whole off season kind of goes through it and we're waiting. And then they finally make the extension happen and we're all happy. So I think it's just part of the plan. And, this is very similar to what Deebo Samuel did a couple years back. So I'm not too surprised. He's mentored by Deebo. Deebo is a veteran captain of the clubhouse at wide receiver. So if anything, he's kind of following in the footstep of Deebo Samuel. But if you guys haven't seen what happened, we're going to talk all about that today. So how are we doing? I'm good. My man says I'm not worried. Carl Thomas. Flood says, what's good? I'm good. Been a busy day, but we're here to talk about the situation. Jimmy says, what's good? I said, well, you know what? I'm good. April says, what's up? What's up, April? Happy Friday, says California man. Happy Friday to you. JR3 says people overly exaggerate. This is exactly what Deebo did. Yeah, I'm not worried about it. Like it doesn't. People are like, oh my God, like I'm not worried about it. Although I know this is kind of part of the story, part of the plan. Now we can kind of officially see what happens here. Now negotiation tactics are involved. A couple weeks ago he posted that cryptic post, and now it's okay. He's doing this. You could probably think that his name's going to be in the news in the next couple of days. The team is supposed to have their first day of like meeting, back to headquarters. The 49ers are supposed to have all the players meet. And, it's like the first day back of the new season on Monday on the 15th. Now they're not going to do a lot of stuff, but it's like intro to welcome back. And will Brandon Ayuk be there? That'll probably be something that we'll hear about. And into the next couple of months after the draft, mini camp and all that stuff. Will Brandon Ayuk be back? If he doesn't get his extension, those are going to be reports that we're going to hear. And then maybe around the draft in a couple of weeks, we might hear some trade rumors. We might hear some like, Brandon Ayuk has requested a trade because this is very on par with how Deebo Samuel's negotiations went. If you remember. So let me pull up the picture. This was earlier today, as we all saw, right? Not Deebo Samuel, but Brandon Ayuk. He posted this, or this was posted all across social media, right? That oh my God, Brandon Ayuk. If you look at it, he's unfollowed the 49ers. Oh no. Oh no. And everybody was up in a panic and everybody was posting about it. So this is what Brandon Ayuk did today. Obviously, if we remember correctly, this was a couple of years back. Deebo Samuel, he changed his PFP, his profile picture, and it took away the 49ers logo. I remember that. And then after that, he unfollowed the 49ers as well. So he kind of set the blueprint. And if you look at what Brandon Ayuk's doing, he's kind of following after Deebo Samuel. It's the blueprint, and we all know what happened with Deebo Samuel. He ended up finally getting his extension. It was long, it was drawn out, but the 49ers and him reached an agreement. It's negotiation. You got to remember, Justin Jefferson, he's up for his contract. He was in the same draft class. He's up for a big contract coming up, and CeeDee Lamb also in the same draft class. Like those two guys are top receivers in the league, along with Brandon Ayuk. They're all looking for their contract. And if you remember Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown was ready for his contract, right? And several other wide receivers in that draft class. And, Deebo got paid, and his agent was getting all these guys paid. So if you remember, boom, one guy went, the next guy got his contract, and it was kind of like a domino effect. So I feel like this is kind of the same thing. Like whoever's going to sign first is going to set the market. It's going to set everybody and their price accordingly. Like Justin Jefferson, if he gets 31 million a year, There's no way Brandon Ayuk's going to get more than Justin Jefferson just based on his career, how it's played out, his statistics and everything. And no disrespect to Ayuk. I mean, look at Justin Jefferson. He's become arguably the top receiver in the NFL. So he justifies getting 30, $31 million. Does Brandon Ayuk? Probably not. But in his mind, he probably feels he's worth that much. But statistically, and the way the 49ers utilize wide receivers, I mean, you can't justify him getting 31 million, 30 million on the 49ers roster. So then that's when negotiations come. And if Brandon Ayuk gets stud on that number, if that's his number, then the trade rumors start and everything like that. But right now, it's just the basis of negotiations. This is how they do it. Deebo did this, and everybody was panicking. I think they'll figure it out. I'm not worried about this. Like Debo's situation, yeah, it was kind of like there was a little worry in me. I was like, oh, maybe they won't get this done. Maybe they'll trade him. But in the end, I remember saying like maybe a 5% chance they don't do it, 10% at most. I remember sitting there. We were doing the percentages with Smitty from the Fantasy Football Live, and we were like, oh, I think they'll get it done. But there's a small part of me with this one, Brandon Ayuk. I just don't think it's even that high. Like I feel again, he's following the blueprint and it's going to happen. The 49ers over the years have pretty much done the same thing. They wait it out, the players get disgruntled and they play their tactics on social media and then boom, after the offseason, after everything's kind of settled and the training camp's about to come, they get it done. They reach a deal and everybody's happy. So I kind of feel like that's going to happen now. It could be a little different, right? Because maybe Brandon Ayuk's not like the other guys. He's a little bit more quiet. But at the same time, if you just look at what Deebo did and you look at what Brandon Ayuk's doing, it looks like a mirror image of itself. But there was a player that the 49ers weren't able to bring back a couple of years back, and that was DeForest Buckner. They chose the Armstead. They knew they were going to get more value from DeForest Buckner if they had to trade one of them, and that's what they did. So at the end of the day, if they do have to make a decision and trade someone on this team because next year Brock Purdy's there and he needs to get paid, Ayuk makes sense because he has higher trade value than anybody really on the team at this moment. So yeah, okay, people are gonna run with the rumors. They're gonna tell you, oh, Brandon Ayuk's gonna get traded, and you'll probably hear these rumors in the next couple of weeks. The draft is close. There's teams that need receivers. Now, if you look at the top end of the draft, I don't think any of those guys are going to really want to trade a top end draft pick, a top 10 draft pick for Brandon Ayuk. Not that he's not worth it, but they're looking to get probably a quarterback. A lot of those guys in the top not going to trade their draft pick for a wide receiver. Now, there are a few teams that could use a wide receiver, but they're able to go get, Marvin Harrison Jr. He's going to be a lot cheaper. Malik Neighbors, something like that. So those teams, they're going to get a star receiver, and they're not going to have to give up a boatload, and they're not going to have to pay a guy like Brandon Ayuk, who, if they were to trade up to give up, trade their draft pick to get a Brandon Ayuk, then they got to pay the guy, and that's not what they want to do. They want a good young player, develop him for a couple of years, and then worry about paying him down the line. So the only team I could really see the 49ers trading, and if it's a first round pick that the 49ers are seeking, it would probably be the Buffalo Bills. They're like at the tail end. I think they're like 26, 28. I don't know exactly, but they're like towards that tail end of the draft. I mean, that's like a late first round pick. It's kind of like a second round pick, early second round pick. That'd be the only team I feel that could make it happen if there is a trade on the tail because they shed a lot of cap space. They got rid of a lot of stars. They don't really have a receiver. They got rid of Stephon Diggs. And you're looking at that roster, like, what the hell is Josh Allen going to throw to? So, yeah, you could make sense in the Buffalo Bills. It's the only team. But is it going to happen? Do they have the money? They got rid of all these players because they need to clear the cap space. So at the end of the day, I just don't see it happening. And the other teams maybe that need a receiver could trade like a second round pick, maybe a third round pick for Ayuk. 49ers want to give up Brandon Ayuk for a second round pick or a third round pick. I don't see that happening. So at the end of the day, they'll negotiate. It's got to be the number, and that number's still to be determined. So that number is going to be determined by, again, CeeDee Lamb and a guy like Justin Jefferson. What is their market value? And I think those two guys probably will set the market, and then Brandon Ayuk's going to be somewhere around them. But we've been hearing different numbers. We've heard anywhere from 23 million a year to 25 million a year. Chad Ochocinco a couple of weeks ago threw the 30 million, tag around. He's, oh, you're worth it. But I don't think Brandon Ayuk's going to get that much money. I think it's going to be between 23 to 25 million a year. But then it's the guaranteed money that really matters to these guys. So, um, let's see. My man, 49ers throwback says Aiyuk is following the Commanders and Lamar Jackson. He's gonna play. He's gonna troll people. He's gonna unfollow. Again, it's all tactics. It's all mind games. It's all shenanigans, like Ian Sharp says. The usual shenanigans. I'm not worried about it. Um, yeah, my man Throwback says, I know you're not surprised by this. Debo is another example. Players just want to get paid. Yeah, and again, these players need to find a way to get some leverage. And nowadays, social media is the way for them to do it. Like, it's crazy. Social media has changed the game, ladies and gentlemen. 20 years ago, none of this stuff happened. Like none of this stuff was going on. Nobody was manipulating, unfollowing the team or doing this. It's crazy how social media has changed the landscape. And I said this a couple years ago when Debo did this, and I just remember that whole situation. It's crazy how everything has changed because of social media and how relative, how fast information can get to us in a matter of time. Like it's just insane how things 20, 30 years ago were, and then the news, it wasn't fast to get to the public. Now the news is there. If someone messes up or someone does something like the Rashi Rice situation, right? Like people had the dash cam footage within like hours after it happened. People had all this information. They had his mug shots, like boom, boom, boom. This stuff wasn't readily available as soon as we get it now, like at the drop of a hat. Like I was talking to someone the other day, like OJ Simpson, right? Remember his trial? I know a lot of young ones in here may not have remembered, but I was very young when this happened, watching the NBA finals, and then boom, the Bronco chase was on TV. That was like mind blowing. I never seen anything like that. Nowadays with social media, if something like that would have happened in today's era, I mean, it would have been all over social media. You would have seen live video feeds. You would have saw like Snapchat featured story. You would have seen, Instagram live. Oh my God, I'm right behind the Broncos. Social media has changed how everything is, not just in sports media, but in everything in society. It's crazy. And these players know it. And they grew up on social media. All these people have grown up on social media. All these players now, all the athletes. It's a new wave. It's a whole new way of doing things. And that's just the trend. Again, I'm not worried, but we'll see. We got to monitor the situation. We got to talk about it. And if you ask me, I don't think Brandon Ayuk's going anywhere. Brandon Ayuk has said he wants to stay with the team if they can figure it out and the price is right and everything's right. Da 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 da. Like he said, John Lynch says they want to make sure they bring this guy back. Kyle Shanahan wants to make sure they bring him back. So I'm not too worried. I feel like I don't know. I feel like just because the 49ers have done this every year, like when I saw this news today, when I saw, he unfollowed, I was like, okay, cool. It doesn't really move the needle to me. But of course, we got to talk about it and we got to see it because this is the progression of his contract. He's in the early stage, the infancy stage of, okay, now he's unfollowed the team. Okay, now what's he going to do next? And now is he going to request a trade? So it's just like the cycle. It's just weird. That's how it goes. It's just like a cycle of how negotiations work every year. You know, the I think let me see. There was a post that said let me see the cycle. So he's due a contract, right? So somebody posted this and says this is how the cycle of the 49ers contract go, right? The 49ers player, you insert player A here, he's due a contract, right? Okay. The Niners organization will say how much they love the player. Okay, oh, we love player A so. Like John Lynch said that we love him. We want him to be on this team. Blah 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 blah. And then the agent or the player will utilize social media to show his frustration. Right? Brandon, he's frustrated. He posted that cryptic tweet or cryptic IG story a couple weeks ago. Right? Oh my God. Then he goes on a podcast and he says, "Oh, I want to get paid," but he doesn't say too much. But it's still a little cryptic, right? And then there's drama by the fans on Twitter. 49ers Twitter's up. Oh my God, is he good? Forget him, trade him. Oh, what can we get for him? What can we get for him? If he doesn't want to be here, what can we get for him? Right? And then more social media drama. And then by training camp, the player is signed and everybody's happy. That's literally the situation every year. It's like a cycle. It's a cycle. So, you know. It's just how it goes. My man Ian says Debo said months ago that Ayuk is not going anywhere. Yeah, I think he was on Up and Adams show. They asked him, and he's not going anywhere. And it just doesn't make sense for the 49ers to get rid of Brandon Ayuk because, again, you have a budding star in Brock Purdy. your franchise quarterback. You want his number one receiver. You want him to continue to build that relationship. Like those two guys are locked in, right? Those two guys had such a good rapport. You can't like you could replace Aiyuk and get a new receiver, and Brandon Ayuk's young and Brock Purdy's young, so of course you want to see them succeed for years to come. But at the same time, because Brock Purdy's young, he's going to be there for many years. He's your franchise quarterback. You expect to be there for at least 5 to 8 years, and you can probably get a young receiver, train them, and they could gel. But you don't want to have to like restart everything, re-energize, and re-orchestrate, and build more chemistry. Because what if they get another receiver, and it doesn't pan out, and you just don't have that chemistry, and they just don't have that on-field, you know, makeup that Brandon Ayuk and Brock has. Sometimes it doesn't work. Like sometimes a quarterback and a receiver may not mesh, and that chemistry is not there. These two guys have locked in chemistry, and I just don't think you get rid of Brock Purdy's top receiver. I don't know. Yeah, Justin says the new Montana Rice. Yeah, it's the new power duo with the 49ers, wide receiver quarterback combo. I mean, of course they got a lot of other weapons. Obviously, they have so many great players on the team, but Brandon Ayuk is Brock Purdy's number one receiver. He is. He really is. Like we know Debo's so important, and he does a lot of things that other players on this team can't do, and a lot of players, if you brought him to this team, couldn't do. Like, but the importance of Brandon Ayuk being a top receiver, like a pure wide receiver, is just so important for Brock Purdy and his continued development with the 49ers. So, not too worried. Again, it is what it is. It's posturing. It's how it goes. It's just how the 49ers and these players do it now. Again, with social media, it's a crazy day and age. Like it is really crazy how things are played out and how the media dissects things. Like it's just coverage is insane. Like if you see one story about a player, you're not going to see it one place. Every sports media page that posts, sport ESPN, like if it's the 49ers, let's say for the example, 49ers, there's a lot of teams, right? Okay. 49ers breaking news. Schefter will post it. Rappaport will post it. Tom Pelissero, Field Yates, my page, Niners Nation, every other 49er content creator, all these people are going to post it. You're going to see all the YouTubers, they're all going to be posting their takes on it. And then it's going to be posted so many times. By the end of the day, if you haven't seen that news, you just haven't been on social media. So it's just so readily available to us how we can get all this information. So players know, oh, if I throw this on social media, someone's going to find this, someone's going to post it, and boom, my name is trending. I'm in the limelight. I'm popular. They want attention. These players, they love attention. They're alphas. They want the world to know the world revolves around them, and that's how athletes are. Of course, they're top dogs, man. They want to be in the spotlight, and social media puts them in the spotlight more than anything ever in sport. Like again, having social media has changed the landscape drastically, especially in sports media, man. It's crazy. Like I just remember growing up watching sports, and I never saw the coverage it is today. I would be running home, after school to watch Sports Center, to watch ESPN, to watch Baseball Tonight or whatever NBA, tonight on TNT, and I would love those shows because that was when I got to see like all the nitty gritty and like all the cool stories of the day. Now you go on Twitter, you see everything that you don't even have to watch TV to know what's going on. But back then you had to go on ESPN, on Sports Center, and that's how you found out your news. Nowadays, you go on Twitter, you can go on my social media page and find out everything that happened with the 49ers, right? And these players know that, and they utilize it to their advantage very well, I must add. So, yeah. My man, California man, he's still not worried about it. Ayuk will sign a new contract deal eventually. I agree with this take. Maybe some people don't. Maybe some people are panicked. Some people are. Maybe I should be worried, but I'm not. Armando said, he also said, this is Deebo, said he wasn't changing numbers. Well, if you remember that story, so let's talk about that. So Deebo Samuel, a couple months ago, um, he posted a picture of a number one, right? He's wearing a number one jersey. This was before he changed the number. And or he changed not his he didn't post a picture. He changed his um IG handle. That's what it was. He changed his IG handle. And I remember I saw that. I posted on Twitter And I was like, oh, is he changing to number one? Because it wasn't 19 problems anymore. It was one Deebo Senior. I posted it, and everybody's like, oh, maybe he's changed to number one. I remember I posted the jersey swap on his story. He's like, these idiots know nothing. And I was like, oh shit, maybe he does. Maybe I'm dumb and I look stupid. I was like, oh god. He posted, these idiots, they don't know what they're talking about. Ha ha ha. And I was like, okay. Then he goes on Hey K Adams show and Up and Adams, and he says, I'm not changing. The Debo Senior. That's what it means. My son is Debo Jr. I'm number one Debo Samuel. I was like, oh, okay. That was his excuse. And then a couple of days later, he posts a picture of him. That's when he posted the picture of him on a jersey with the number one on it, and he was like, haha, and then changed his number. And then we all found out. But he then went back on the Up and Adams show and says, I wanted to break the news. Nobody else. That's what that was about. So he wasn't lying about anything. So I genuinely think where I'm going with this is because you responded to me talking about how Debo said he doesn't think Aiyuk is going anywhere. I don't think he's lying about that. I think he generally knows, or maybe doesn't necessarily know about the contract situation, but he generally feels that Aiyuk will get his contract extension because he went through the same process that Brandon Aiyuk went to. So I guarantee you, um, Aiyuk and Debo have talked about the contract. I guarantee you that Debo has talked to Brandon and gave him his tips and pointers on how to get the strong hand and maybe negotiate the contract. But based on your question and your comment, um, I will say, yeah, Debo talking and lying about changing his jersey number is because what he said was he wanted to break the news. He didn't want any. He didn't want me to break the news. He didn't want anybody other person on social media to break his news that he's changing the number. So that's what that is. But again, now we see how social media works, right? Someone like me, I can see his Instagram, and I'm like, oh, he changed his name. Oh, and we post it for the world to see, and then we start speculating, right? And we come up with news. Oh, does it mean this? And then boom, people will start making stories, and we'll talk about it, and we get YouTube videos and this and that. And it's the same thing. Brandon Aiyuk. Oh, he posts a cryptic message on his Instagram story. Oh, people start posting. Oh, he doesn't want to be with the 49. Oh, he's mad. Probably doesn't mean any of that, but we assume, and social media takes things and they blow things up, maybe out of proportion sometimes. So it's just how it goes. So Cristiano says, what does Brandon want? I don't know. We don't know. I think those are questions we'll find out later down the line. They don't really explain all this stuff until after negotiations. That's when everything, all the details, they're going to keep everything invested inside, and they're going to keep it all in until after negotiations. You can't let all that news out because if they throw his number out, other receivers that are negotiating, they're going to know that. So it's all tactics, it's negotiation, and leverage techniques, because again, there's other agents that have other receivers that are trying to get paid, and you can utilize a player's number that let's say player A makes $27 million a year, right? And you're up for a contract, and you have better stats than player A, and he's making that 27 million, right? You're gonna go to your agent, you're gonna go to the front office of the team. Hey, I did better than this guy, and I need to get paid more than his 27 million. So again, it's all leverage techniques, and statistics and how you present yourself in these negotiations. That's how you get your money. So, Robbie says, at least Brandon Ayuk's BS is keeping things interesting. Yeah, it is. People like myself, maybe not to the extent I used to, but social media content creators, people that have a page like myself, and they post these things and they go on YouTube, they love this stuff. I guarantee they love it. Oh God, because it's content, it's stuff for us to talk about. I love to talk about the 49ers. I could run my mouth, as you see, all day about the Niners, right? I could go live. I'll tell you guys things, my opinion, and you guys like to hear my thoughts and hear the news and stuff, right? So people like myself that have a 49ers page or any sports media page, we love this stuff because it keeps us busy. It keeps content going. We can still talk about the 49ers. Because let's be honest, when it's the off season and there's literally no news, it's bone dry news, the draft is passed, free agency's passed, you're in between training camp, you go on these pages, there's nothing to talk about. And sometimes you're like, do I really want to post an old highlight? No, there's nothing to talk about. So it is nice when there's rumors, when there's drama. To an extent, it is nice because it gives us something to talk about. It's like reality TV. It gives us something to talk about. Now, sometimes it's not always fun. Like sometimes we're like, oh, that's dramatic. It's like TMZ. It's like a reality TV show. But you know what? Sometimes reality TV can be fun. So drama can be fun. Yeah, Robbie says, what else are we going to talk about? The Mid Warriors or the Terrible Giants? Like, what are we going to talk about in the Bay Area, right? At least it gives us something to talk. At least we can talk about our 49ers. So we love the 49ers. My man Andy says, remember, guys, it's smoke season. That's true. It's smoke season. That's it. If you understand how the off season works and you just know that it's smoke season, then everything is just fun and games, and it's just for us to talk about and give our opinions and things like that. As long as you know going into every off season that it is smoke season, like Andy says, I love that he said that. Then everything's gonna be fun. Then you're not gonna be up in arms. But people that don't, and they're so guarded. Oh my god, Brandon, oh my god, he unfollowed Gordon, oh my god. Then that's when you start, you know, getting irritated. Then you go on social media, you start fighting people. But that's just how, again, speaking of how social media has evolved, like that's just it. Society is crazy because you go on social media and you go argue with someone till you're blue in the face all day. And you never even met the person. You don't even know where the hell they are. But you could sit there and get in a nasty argument on social media these days. It's so crazy. So what is the most possible team for Brandon to go to? Says Cristiano. Again, I think I'm looking again. I haven't really looked at all the teams with the draft picks that need a wide receiver, but off the top of my head, I would say the Buffalo Bills. Right, they're not in the NFC, so you don't trade them to a team that you'd be readily threatened by Brandon Aiyuk. The Bills need a receiver desperately. They have a late first round pick, which probably would be your best guy. I don't think Brandon Ayuk nets an early first. Not saying he's bad or he's not worth it, but I just think based on the value, he's played 4 years. He's just starting to kind of really hit his peak. Good receiver, but he also has a big contract coming up. I think a team would give up maybe the 25th through 30th pick. We have 31st pick. So I think from 25 to 30, that's kind of the range of a draft pick. The highest draft pick I feel like we'd get out of Brandon Ayuk. That's being really generous. I don't think we'd ever get anything higher than that. So I think the Bills fit that mold. But do they have the money to pay for Brandon Ayuk's extension? Now that's the other question. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at their salary cap situation, and they just shed a lot of money right over the last couple of weeks. I mean, they cut everybody from Stephon Diggs to Jordan Poyer. Right, they cut them all. Tre'Davious White. So I do think the Bills make sense because they need a receiver. They got nobody for Josh Allen to throw to really, and they got kind of a late first round pick, which I feel like could net. But I don't think it's gonna happen. 25th says JD. Yes, let's look that up. Let's get the specificals. Let me look that up. Um, Bills draft. So it's the playoffs. What brings you? The Bills. The Bills are slotted to pick 28th overall in the first round. Okay, so 28th. I was right earlier. I said between 26 and 28. I thought it was 28. So, yeah, the Bills have the 28th overall pick in the first round of the draft. That would actually kind of make sense. The Bills would probably give up the 28th pick. If any team is going to trade for a wide receiver, I think it makes sense. For the Bills, the number 28th pick, you slam it out to the Niners for Brandon Aiyuk. He's probably going to be better than any wide receiver drafted at 28. And if they have the money, he could pay for it. That would be my guess if I had to guess. If there is a team that could trade for Brandon Ayuk. But I just don't see it happening. I don't think the 49ers want to trade him. And then again, will the Bills have the money to pay for Brandon Ayuk? They just really, literally got rid of everybody to make sure they have money coming into the season. So but yeah, those are my overall thoughts on Brendan Ayuk. We'll do a couple of questions. There were a few things I wanted to get to, and I think my man Media had a question here about Laken Tomlinson. He's going to the Seahawks. Oh my God! Oh, so if you guys saw this, we posted this earlier on social media. Tom Pelissero reported that the Seahawks are signing veteran guard Laken Tomlinson to a 1-year deal. Yeah, you know what? I don't really care that he went to the Seattle Seahawks. He went to the Ops. He used to be on the 49ers. But you know what? They needed an offensive lineman. They needed an upgrade. But guess what? Laken Tomlinson, he's kind of past his prime. He's washed. He's now on the ops. So, you know what? He's the enemy now, and I hope the 49ers crush this man and dog walk him. You know what? On the Jets, he did not play well last year. And, they didn't re sign him. He was a free agent. A lot of people wanted the 49ers to bring back Lakin. Oh, bring him back, reunite him with the Niners. Mr. Victory Donuts. I loved him when he was on the Niners. But you know what? That was a couple years back. He's lost a couple steps. He's a little bit older. He's a little bit closer to my age, and that's never, never good. You know what? Glad that he's got another contract. Glad that he's still able to play. That's great for him and his family. But you know what? I'm not worried. I think he's lost a couple of steps right in the league, and again, he's coming off a really bad season with the Jets. We talked about Lakin a few weeks ago when he was a free agent, and everybody was saying when the Jets released him, everybody was saying, should they sign him? Should the Niners sign Lakin? Oh my God! And I was like, and I sat here, and I said, I'm not really worried about him. I hope the 49ers don't sign him because, again, he's kind of past his prime. And the 49ers need to get young and they need to get elite linemen. He's not going to be able to stay in the league forever. He's probably got 1 or 2 more years left in him. 49ers need to get younger. They need to get reliable linemen and solid guys that they could build his team around. Because again, Brendel, 32, Feliciano, 32, Trent Williams, 36. How many more years did they have left in their legs? And we also know Colts McKivitz, they need to upgrade that spot. The only guy that's less than the only kind of really good offensive lineman with high upside still is Aaron Banks. They drafted him in the second round a couple years ago. He's in his contract season. That to me is a guy that I love, and I hope they could bring him back. But you want to get younger. You want to bring in valuable players that you could build this offensive line around. I don't think you build your offensive line around Lakin Tomlinson. He was good when he was with the Niners, but he's past his prime. But yeah, shout out to him. I'm glad he got a job, but I'm not happy it's with the Seahawks. He is now the enemy. Lakin Tomlinson, I hope we shove those donuts down your throat when the 49ers play your Seattle Seahawks. That's it. Shove those donuts down his mouth, my boy. So that was that. Lakin Tomlinson to the Seahawks. Let's see. Any other news? I don't know if you guys saw this. I posted this. Brock Purdy, man. Shout out to young Brock, the franchise. He is now a John Deere spokesperson. I'm sure you guys saw it. His ad was posted on social media. We reposted it. My man is collecting a bag of endorsements. I love Brock Purdy. You know what? He may not be making that much money contractually, but he's picking up those endorsements and he's stacking his money. I love it. He got married this off season. He got a sponsorship with Toyota, with the Pioneer Corn, the Recover Energy drink, and now John Deere. I love Brock Purdy getting all those freaking endorsements. So yeah, shout out to the young king Brock Purdy. And you know what? Speaking of Brock Purdy, today was Brock Purdy days before the draft. Man, hopefully 49ers can find another gem like Purdy. But yeah, 13 days until the NFL draft. So I'm excited. My man Sacred Intuition says the Niners stay getting rid of their depth. Not necessarily. They get rid of older players and then they replace them with newer guys. They drafted a lot of players, and you gotta remember they have a lot of young drafted players over the last couple of years. They need to get their opportunity. They can't just sit there rot on the bench. So you got to get rid of the old, bring in some new guys, and they did sign some depth players this season, especially on the defensive line, like Yatur Gross Matos. They signed Jordan Elliott, Malik Collins, Leonard Floyd. So yeah, they lost some guys. They brought in some guys, and again, players get older. They can't keep everybody. You can't justify paying everybody. You have younger guys. You have D Winters, right? You have to be able to play a guy like that who we're excited about. Jair Brown, we're excited about him, right? So at some point, those younger guys have to, be interlaced into this roster and get their opportunity. And then they did sign some veterans, right? Yesterday, Rock Ya-Sin, they bring in some veterans for depth, and then they're going to be their depth pieces moving forward. So that's the way I look at it. I'm not too worried about the players they lost. I think they brought in a good amount of players. And speaking about a good amount of players, so this was one of them, Isaac Yiadom, one of their newer free agent signings, cornerback. He is grinding. He posted on his social media, put in the work, go berserky. It's perfect timing. So he's been grinding. He's ready. He's ready to prove himself and get to see this team and prepare for his first year with this team. I'm excited about a lot of these newer players. It's always fun free agency because you get some new players. And when the new season starts, you're like, okay, is this guy going to be the truth? How's he going to fit into this roster, especially the draft picks too? Okay, we drafted this guy, and you're like, okay, how's he going to fit into the roster? So the new season's always fun because you get a lot of new players and draft picks, and you get to really see how they fit into the lineup and everything. So good stuff. Again, the big story of the day was Brandon Aiyuk unfollowed the 49ers. And again, my overall take is not worried. I'm not. I've seen it happen. He's copy pasting Deebo Samuel. This is to me literally to the T the Brandon Ayuk slash Deebo Samuel plan at contract negotiation. This is Deebo Samuel's contract negotiation. Like reborn. It's like he took a carbon piece of, those carbon copy papers back he used to do. It's like boom, he carbon copied it, and it's the same thing that Debo's doing. It's literally copy paste. So I'm not worried, ladies and gentlemen. That's my take. Maybe you guys are, but I'm not worried. My man Robbie says, don't forget Alaska Airlines. Yeah, I said Toyota, but Alaska Airlines. Brock Purdy also is a sponsor of Alaska Airlines. I did forget about that, but he is. I saw his video. If you go on like their social media pages, I think on TikTok they do have the Brock Purdy Alaska Airlines ad on there. This man collected so many sponsorships. You gotta love it, man. Brock officially tripled the money he got from the Niners through sponsorships. That's incredible. Not only that, but he also got that play bonus, right? Early, about a week or two ago, the incentive side bonus that the league gives. So, fucking Brock, man, shout out to him. He earned a lot of extra money. Um, that's so, I love that for him. Love that for Brock. But yeah, that's it for tonight. You guys have a good weekend. Maybe there'll be news this weekend, but the weekends have been kind of dull in terms of 49ers news. So we'll see. You guys have a good weekend. Hopefully, we'll be back rocking and rolling next week. We do have a few live shows Monday, Tuesday, usually with Larry, and then Monday night with the my boy Ted. We have a show cooking up on Monday, but I may not be able to do the Tuesday night show with Larry because we got some early birthday celebrations for myself next week. But we're still planning things. It's still early, but I'll let you guys know. We'll be live, and hopefully there's some news next week. We could talk about it. If not, the following week, the NFL draft takes place on the 25th through the 27th. So we'll definitely be back in action and be talking about all that. But you guys have a good rest of your week. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, all that, blah, 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 blah. Y'all have a good rest of your night. My man Jim Everett the Great says, we're the 1989 VHS champs. You know what? Better than not being the champs. Have a blessed night. I love y'all.